You're looking to put nitrous oxide on your ride. Here is the step-by-step how to do it from beginning to end. Well, because that's what we did here. Now this is our 1965 Ford Mustang project, the Iron Horse. And we have just completed the nitrous oxide installation on it. We've had a series going on the whole thing, from making our switch panel, which we'll show you in a minute, to installing this and installing that. But in this video we're going to compile all that together into one big comprehensive video to show you exactly the steps you need to take to put nitrous on your hot rod, or really anything for that matter, but hot rod in our case. First thing you got to do is, well, you got to acquire a nitrous oxide kit. Depending on what kind of induction system you have, in our case carburetor, you will need a nitrous oxide plate, just like that. Now that nitrous plate will go underneath your carburetor, well, clearly, right? Or underneath, behind whatever the throttle body, whatever you have. There's different plate systems for EFI applications and carburetor applications. This just happens to be carbureted. So you'll need that, and your plate system is very, very important, because believe it or not, the plate in of itself is going to determine what size jets you use for your nitrous and what size jets you use for your fuel. Different plates flow different rates, therefore you need to know exactly what plate system you have in order to get an accurate jetting chart, so you know how much horsepower you're pumping into it. Ask me how I know that. Now with the air filter off, we have a better look at our solenoids. That is the next thing that you need to do. Once you have the plate underneath your throttle body, or whatever manner you have it, right, you need to install your solenoids. Now there's going to be two, at least two. Well, on a wet system there's going to be at least two. On a dry system there's only one. Can be only one. Okay, there's nuances. In our case, we're doing just the basic wet system nitrous kit. You're going to have a fuel solenoid. Then come on this side and you'll have your nitrous solenoid. This is the side nitrous goes into. That's the side fuel goes into. And that connects right to your plate system, right down there. Now, right inside here, this connection point, that's where your jets go. We'll talk about jets here in a little bit. But just know that's where the jets go, right into there. That's just a metered orifice to allow a certain amount of fuel flow or nitrous flow into the plate system. Now on our nitrous side, you can see that line. That's the nitrous line going to the bottle. And we'll track that line and where it goes and all that stuff later. But right now, just know that's where the nitrous comes into. We're going to focus on the fuel side for now. Now what I have for the fuel is I have a fuel line coming off directly into a T off my main fuel line, right? Main fuel line going to the carburetor. And that's just connected to a mechanical fuel pump. Now this way works just fine for a low shot, 50 horsepower, 100 horsepower, maybe a 150 shot. This kind of a system will work okay. If you get into a bigger shot, I would recommend actually having a dedicated fueling system just for the nitrous with its own fuel pump. That's the word I'm looking for. Now, just like with the plate system having a very big influence over what size jets you use, so does your fuel pressure, your flowing fuel pressure. You're supposed to set your fuel pressure with it flowing through the size of orifice that you are going to use, right? I didn't do any of that on this because of it's such a low powered shot. Get a bigger shot, 200 shot, 250 shot, 300, 500 shot ridiculousness. Yeah, you're going to want to flow your fuel pressure through the size orifice jet, right? The size jet that you're going to use, and set the fuel pressure, have a dedicated fuel line going to it from a dedicated fuel source with its own fuel pump. That way the nitrous side of things is completely separate from the main part of things, and you can finely tune it and accurately know what it's doing. But for the basic 100 shot that I have on this thing, just the tee off the normal fuel pump's fine. Alright, so let's delve onto the nitrous side now. As you can see, we have one solenoid for the nitrous. There is one more solenoid right here, but let's pretend it's not here for right now, because technically this is not absolutely necessary, but it is pretty handy. So let's just pretend the nitrous just comes directly out into this nitrous line. This goes inside the car to your nitrous bottle, wherever the nitrous bottle happens to be. So that's all that is. It is from the bottle to your solenoid right here. I have some things in between that, but just that's the simplest form of it. Just direct connection. And you have your nitrous jet right here. That is how you plumb your fuel and how you plumb your nitrous, right? That's how you're getting the actual fluids into the plate system. Now you gotta wire it. And there's different ways how you can wire stuff, right? Relays and switches and all this and whatnot. I'm just going to show you what I did, and I did the most bare bones setup you can possibly do. Add fuses, add relays, add whatever you want in between, but just this is the way I did it, and that's just the way I'm going to show you, a way to do it. Now all I did is I took one wire from both my fuel solenoid and my nitrous solenoid, and I routed them up into here, and I have it just coming directly off of this post right here on the starter solenoid. Really, that's just a convenient place to put it. All you're doing is you're putting direct power to the solenoids. That's how I did it, okay? That's the positive side done. We're going to switch it to ground, because that's a little bit easier on the whole electrical system and switch. Now for the ground side of things, here's our positive wire. The ground we're going to route inside that hole right there into the car. Through there, into this whole contraption right there. Now what you're looking at is our switch panel that we made on a couple videos back. This is holding more switches than just what I'm showing you right now. We'll get to these in a minute, but right now we're just showing you how to plumb the actual nitrous side of things. So those wires come up right here, and they focus on this switch right here. You have both wires coming down and hooking to the switch right here. This is for the fuel and the nitrous solenoids. Both solenoids come right here onto this one lug. Then the outlet comes out around, as you can see, underneath my carpet here. Okay? And that comes right to this button here. This is my actual nitrous button. That, when I hit this, it is going to spray the nitrous. Okay? When I flip this switch and arm it, this is going to make the power run from this to this switch. That switch activates this switch. Okay? Because you don't want this to be on all the time. Right? So you can hear it. That's on right now. Now it's not. Alright? But that's two wires under here. Now, one wire coming in from that switch right there. One wire coming in. One wire going out. Now that wire going out is going out that bottom hole right there, coming out to a ground source. Now I just used my hood hinge here because it was the most convenient way of doing it at the time. You'll notice there's two wires. Again, only one of them is for the actual nitrous solenoids themselves. The other one is for another thing entirely, which I will get to in a second. But that is it in a nutshell here for the actual wiring part. Last but not least, we have to hook our nitrous line to our bottle, wherever you happen to put yours. Mine lives right there, and it's just kind of tucked in back there for now because, well, frankly, I want to be able to reach it when I sit down. See, so I can turn it on and off. So that is my personal preference right there. But as you can see, the nitrous line comes in. I have way too much line, which I gotta get a shorter one eventually, but it just coils around there. But then it comes out all the way to that, which I'll get to in a minute, but right out to the solenoid. So that is how the fuel is hooked up, how the nitrous is hooked up, and how it's wired, right? Very simple. Very simple how I did it, right? Just bare bones, okay? Now, there are some additions that I've done on my nitrous system to make things more convenient for me, and possibly for you too, and chances are, okay? Now, the two things I've done is I've added a nitrous pressure gauge, and I've added a purge system, okay? Let's start with the nitrous gauge because that is very, very simple. And I've put mine right here. I actually made this bracket a couple videos back. We went through making this to mount all my switches and everything on, and this, because I want to be able to see it from the driver's seat right there. Quick take a glance at it, activate it, all this and that. A lot of people actually just put the gauge on the nitrous bottle, which there's a provision for right here. But again, I didn't want it here. I wanted it somewhere I could see it. Now, a nitrous pressure gauge is very essential for when you're really getting down and dirty with the nitrous. You want the nitrous pressure to be around 900, 950, or 1,000. 900 to 1,000 is about perfect. And, a full bottle will normally get you around there, pretty close, just in of itself. Once the bottle starts wearing down a little bit, then there are some things like bottle warmers. If you warm up the bottle, it'll increase the pressure, things like that. Or you can even adjust your tune. If you know you're going to be running a little fat, because the less pressure and nitrous you have, the less nitrous is actually getting sprayed into the engine. So your mixture runs more rich than it should, because there's more. The fuel is staying the same, but you're adding less nitrous. So you can always adjust the tune with the jets also if you're running lower pressure. But most people will just warm up the bottle until it's right where they want it, or just fill the bottle. So that is why I put my switch or my gauge there, because I want to be able to see where I'm at and judge what I need to do and yada yada from there and there. Okay. And I got a little connector here that the switch comes off of, this little block, right? And right now I just have a hose clamp holding it in place. These gauges were never meant to actually be mounted inside of essentially a dashboard, right? It's meant to hang off a bottle, so there's no actual way to press it into the sheet metal. So I just have a hose clamp for now before I figure something else out. That was the first thing. Now here's the second thing. Second thing's a little more complicated, but still pretty easy. It's just basically wiring it the exact same way you would just the regular nitrous solenoids. And that's the purge valve, purge system, purge solenoid, the purge, which is that other solenoid that I showed you earlier. Now that just hooks in right here in between the nitrous hose and the nitrous solenoid. And what the purge does is you got all this length of hose, right? As soon as you turn the nitrous on, well, there's still air in this hose. This hose is full of air. So when you hit the button, nitrous doesn't flow in to your engine first. All the air in the hose does, meaning there's a delay in the nitrous, and it messes up your tune. So the way we get rid of that is we flush the hose out with the nitrous. So only nitrous is left in that hose. That's where the purge comes in. It's just another nitrous solenoid, no different than that one, that you open up to let everything out first, out this tube, instead of into your engine. And all we do is wire it the same exact way. I have one wire coming in to a direct positive, and I have the other wire going in there to the switch panel. But instead of coming to this switch, it actually comes to this switch right here. This is our arming switch for the purge, and here's the purge button. So we just go right directly into this switch. From this switch, directly into this button here. You see that? It's just one little connection point there. Then from this button, it goes back out to our ground out there. And that's what that second wire coiled around the first one is. That's our purge and our nitrous solenoids. Same exact wiring. So when you activate it, the nitrous will flow out through this tube that we have stuck right there. That just purges all the nitrous out through there and the air. And again, just like the first arming switch, that activates the button, and the button activates the purge. Just like that. Close the switch, no activation. Doesn't do anything. And that's it. That's the entire nitrous system installed start to finish. You just hook up your plate, put your solenoids on it, put the right jets in it, which you have to determine based on what style plate you have and what their jet recommendation is, based on what fuel pressure you have flowing through that orifice and how much nitrous pressure you have. Sounds complicated, you know. If you run a little more fat than lean, it's fine, right? Just don't run too lean, because that's what will break stuff. Wire up the nitrous solenoids. Optional purge, optional nitrous pressure gauge. You know, probably should have that one. But if you don't want a purge, don't want to install a purge, what you can do is you can purge it through the engine. Put the engine in neutral or park. Bring it up past 3 grand, right? Bring it up about 3,000 so, and you purge it through the engine, okay? Until you hear the engine going up in RPM. Then you'll know you're flushed out the air and you're into the nitrous. I just find a purge system way easier, because when you go to shut off the car, when you're done with the nitrous, you gotta get the air out of the line somehow. So you can either go out there and crack open the line and bleed it off that way, or I just bleed it off through the purge. So that comes in handy. It's kind of a waste, wasting all that nitrous though. So the shorter lines you have, the less nitrous will get wasted when you go to shut the thing off again. Unless you want to try to use it in a hit, but that's a little too sketchy for my taste. That's it. But what does nitrous exactly do? I have 100 shot on mine, which for my purposes was a 41 jet on the fuel and a 52 jet for the nitrous. Let's go make 2 passes back to back and see the difference. Okay, so let's establish a baseline, right? So let's do a pull, first to second, no nitrous, then we'll do the nitrous, and we'll see the difference. Alright. Ready? We're going to open the bottle, which is back here. Alright, so now let's activate the nitrous. So we'll activate our purge, look up there. Okay, then we'll come down here, activate the arming switch. Now we're ready. Let's see the difference. Yeah, that was a bit different, wasn't it? Now the difference is, for the first run without the nitrous, we just we took off. I didn't flat-foot it. I wanted some traction, right? So I kind of lazily taked off a little bit, just to try to get it off and going, and just ran it up to 6 grand. After it ran up to 6 grand, I shifted and, slowed down all that. The second run with the nitrous, I did the exact same thing, but as soon as I saw 3,000 RPM, I hit the button. And as soon as I hit the button, it blew the tires off and wind up right to 6 grand. Where I let off the button and I shifted to second, and I tried to slow it down. So the nitrous makes a big difference, and that's only 100 shot. It's not even that much, right? But you can definitely tell it's, you know, it's the fun button. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you, it's the fun button. Okay, so that's the difference. That, you know, from one test to the other, the one test, it, whoa, right? Unfortunately, for the second test, when I hit it, it just blew the tires and just wanged right up to $6 grand. And that was the end of that. One took significantly longer than the other. Okay, so that's nitrous start to finish. That's how you install it. Okay, and that's how you set up the wiring and this and that and whatever else. Now I only have 2, well, possibly 3 other things to mention about nitrous if you're going to be doing it. That's octane, timing, and spark plug heat range. Okay, let's talk about timing first. Now for the Iron Horse, what I did is normally the initial timing, I didn't look at total, you know, the initial timing is about 10 degrees before top dead center. I'd really like it to be a lot more than that, but I need either a different distributor or I need to figure out a way to limit my mechanical advance on this distributor still. I've been thinking about how to go about doing that. I don't have a welder, otherwise I would just weld it, and I don't know anybody else who does that's close to me who would be actually able to weld close the gap in the distributor's mechanical advance, you know, right? 10 degrees before top dead center. So what I did was I took it from 10 and I put it down to 8. No, it might be less than 8. It might actually be 6. Regardless, right? I shifted it down below 10 and I called it a day. Okay, I wasn't too finicky about it. It's only 100 shot, right? Even that, you know, might not have even been necessary for the amount of nitrous I'm doing. I just did everything in my power to try to be safe with it. Now I backed off the timing, and you were supposed to back off the timing because the nitrous makes the flame front travel inside the combustion chamber a lot faster. Well, if the flame is traveling a lot faster through your combustion chamber, you don't need to activate it as early in order to get it to hit at the same time. That's why you back off the timing. So, you know, that's number one. You got to back off your timing a little bit when you're running power adder like nitrous. Number 2, your spark plug heat range. I didn't change the spark plugs at all. I was going to go colder on the spark plug, but, you know, like I said, for such a small amount of nitrous, the 100 shot, I took my chances. I just left it alone. But generally speaking, you're supposed to lower your spark plug heat range whenever you run nitrous. You know, it's just what you're supposed to do. I think it's probably like 2 heat ranges down maybe from stock, depending on how much you run. Oh, timing, it's supposedly 2 degrees of timing you back off for every 50 horsepower you introduce also. So that's just rules of thumb there, I guess, guidelines. So that's, you know, another thing. If you're running more nitrous, probably pull off the heat range of your spark plugs a bit. And that's because you don't want the spark plug itself to become, you know, the ignition system when it's not activated. If it's too hot and you're pouring nitrous in and the cylinder pressure peaks and whatnot, it can cause detonation and pre-ignition and stuff. Your spark plug could act like a glow plug at that point with that kind of volatile situation. So you want a colder spark plug. Last but not least, your octane rating. If you're going to be increasing the cylinder pressure and, you know, shooting nitrous in there, depending on how much nitrous you use, you really should be running some pretty high octane. Okay. Now, for the 100 shot that I've been doing, 91's probably more than safe for it. Well, I took precautionary, I was a little weary, okay? So I actually added 93 octane in the car on top of one of these. Now this is an octane booster. Quick warning about octane boosters: if they don't tell you, okay, here's, you know, they can be snake oil. If they don't tell you exactly how much they raise your octane by, not worth it, okay? That you're not knowing what the hell you're doing then, or you're not knowing exactly what it is it's trying to do or how much it's doing it by, right? It might raise your octane a bit, but by how much? You got to know that stuff, okay? Now, I use VP Racing Fuels Madditive. That's first time I ever read that. Holy, but that is some advertising right there. Octanium. Oh shit. Oh, I should have really been reading this. Madditive Octanium. Oh, octane concentrate. Racing formula for off-road use only. Didn't follow those directions, did I? Anyways, this stuff right here, okay, that's what I used. I found this stuff when I had the Cutlass, because the Cutlass had 11.5 to 1 compression. When it was on E85, it was fine, but when I switched it back to gas, it was like right at the edge of being okay for gasoline. 91 octane. 93 it ran good on, but 91 it would like diesel sometimes and just kind of wasn't the best. I found this stuff, and this stuff worked. It raises it by 10 gallons up to 80 points, or well, I believe that's 8 numbers. So took my 91, made about what, 99, or no, I put 93 in it, so that was 102 octane. Way cheaper than actually just buying race gas. This stuff's like, I don't know, 20 bucks. It treats up to 10 gallons. 10 gallons of fuel is about $4.20 odd cents right now, so that'd be 40. Yeah. 110 octane at the pump right now is $9.99, so a lot cheaper than that. And it works really good. So I put this in it. You don't have to, like I said, I just did because I know this stuff works and I wanted to be precautionary for my first time shooting nitrous. That's it. That's all there is to it. That is everything I can think of about nitrous oxide. God, I am getting dark. What the heck here? That's it. Have fun with it, alright? Go get some, have some fun with it. It's the cheapest power you can find, and it is really really fun. You know, you push the button and it's just whoa, you know, it makes the go fast button, right? And that's just a 100 shot. I can't wait till we get into a little bit deeper horsepower with this whole getup. 150 is about the max for this engine. I'm thinking that's probably pushing it. The new motor, that's going to be eating some nitrous up, let me tell you. Or a supercharger or something else, I don't know. Because I enjoy power adders. And I know you do too, so go install yours. And I'll catch you next time.